It's 6:40 in the evening and you are standing at a coffee shop just off the highway, still in your work boots, the truck idling in the lot outside because you never bothered turning it off for a 5-minute stop. The line moves slow. You order the same thing you always order, something with a name longer than it needs to be, and hand over your card without looking at the total. $5. You don't think about it. Nobody thinks about it. $5 is the price of not having to decide about anything else tonight, after a 10-hour shift, after the guy at work asked if you were free to cover Saturday, after you told him yes because the overtime helps and the answer is always yes lately. You take a sip in the parking lot before you even get back in the truck. By tomorrow you won't remember this happened. You won't remember the coffee, the total, the $5 that left your account without a fight. That's the entire point of $5. It's the exact amount that vanishes without leaving a mark on a man who works hard for his money and figures he's earned the right to spend a little of it without thinking twice. Now hold that $5 in your mind, because this is a story about the same $5 every single day for the next 4 decades. And about 2 very different lives it quietly builds for 2 men who start out standing in the exact same line, working the exact same kind of job, cashing the exact same kind of paycheck every other Friday. You're 25, same evening, different choice. Instead of the coffee shop, you sit in the truck in the parking lot and open an app you downloaded on your phone and forgot about. The kind of app that sounded smart when your buddy mentioned it once and you never followed up. You move $5 into a total market index fund. The whole market, one button, no opinion required, no stock picks, no chart reading, nothing that requires you to feel like an expert. Just $5 buying a tiny sliver of every major company in the country. The balance says $5. It looks almost insulting, honestly. A rounding error dressed up as a plan for your future. You feel a little stupid, like a man planting one seed in an empty field and calling it a farm. Your wife asks what you're doing on your phone, and when you tell her, she laughs a little too, not unkindly. $5 a day isn't going to fix the roof or pay off the truck any faster, and you both know it. But you set it to repeat automatically every single day anyway, so you never have to feel yourself making the decision again. The $5 leaves before you can spend it on something with a receipt, before it can turn into a coffee, a case of beer, or one more thing you don't really need but almost bought anyway. A full year passes. The balance reads $1,911. You put in $1,825 of your own money, less than 1 month's mortgage payment, spread out so thin across the year you never once felt it leave. The market quietly added $86 on top of that while you were busy working, coaching your kid's Saturday team, mowing the lawn, and not thinking about any of this at all. You mention it at lunch one day to a guy on your crew. We'll call him Nate. Nate's a good guy, works hard, same hours as you, same pay grade more or less. Nate gets a $5 coffee like this every single afternoon without thinking twice, same as you used to. He also picks up a case of something cold most Fridays, throws $20 into the fantasy football pot every week during the season, and never quite says no to the guys grabbing wings after a shift. $86. He laughs when you tell him what the account made. I make that in one good Sunday betting on the Cowboys. He's not wrong about the speed of it. He's also not built anything he can point to a year from now. You don't say any of that out loud. You just nod and let the $5 keep leaving your account into the fund instead of his beer fridge. You're 28 now, 3 years in. The balance sits around $6,300. Most of that growth isn't even your money anymore. It's the account making money on the money it already made, quietly, without asking your permission. Nate mentions offhand one day that he's got about $400 saved up. Total, not this year, ever, in his whole adult life. He says it like it's not a big deal, and to him it isn't, because nobody ever told him it should be. You don't say anything, you just notice the shape of the gap forming between 2 men who clock in at the same time every morning and drive home on the same road every night. He's not behind because he makes less than you, he makes close to the same. The $5 just went somewhere different every single day for 3 straight years, And 3 years is apparently long enough for that difference to start showing. Around the same time, your transmission goes out on the truck. And $1,800 repair you didn't see coming and definitely didn't budget for. You and your wife sit at the kitchen table that night with the checkbook open, doing the math out loud the way you do every time.
Something like this happens, moving numbers around between the mortgage and the card and whatever's left in checking. You don't touch the investment account. It genuinely doesn't cross your mind to because it's not savings in your head yet. It's just a thing that happens automatically in the background, separate from the account you actually watch. You put the repair on the card instead and pay it down over 4 months. Looking back, that's the year you realize the $5 a day was never competing with your real savings. It was living somewhere your emergencies couldn't reach it, simply because you never thought to look there.
You're 30, 5 years in. The balance is near $11,800. You've put in about $9,100 of your own money, $1 amount you'd recognize instantly if someone handed it to you in cash, and yet you never felt a single day of it leaving your paycheck. The rest, almost $2,700, showed up out of nowhere, the way weeds show up in a yard you never planted anything in. That same year, Nate gets excited about a stock a buddy of a buddy told him about at a barbecue. Something small, something about to move. He drops $500 into it in one shot, chasing the version of $5 that turns into a lot of money instantly, with no waiting required. You recognize the shape of that promise. It's the same shape as the coffee shop, the scratch tickets by the register, the fantasy football pot. A small amount becoming a large amount fast, with nothing in between but hope. 3 months later, the stock is down 70%, and Nate stops bringing it up at lunch. You keep moving your $5 a day into the most boring fund available, the one with no story attached to it at all.
You're 33. You get a raise. Not huge, but real. The kind that finally lets you breathe a little on the mortgage and the truck payment at the same time instead of choosing between them. For a moment, you think about letting the lifestyle catch up. A nicer truck, maybe, or finally redoing the kitchen your wife's been asking about for 2 years. You do redo part of the kitchen, but you also bump the $5 up to $8 a day without thinking twice about it, because by now, it isn't really a decision anymore. It's just how your money moves before you ever see it. Balance, about $30,700. You're 35, 10 years in, and the year this whole story was really measuring toward. 10 years of $5 a day, later bumped to $8, adds up to a little over $22,000 of your own money across a decade you barely felt in your paycheck. It's become just over $31,000 sitting in an account with your name on it. This is also the year the market drops hard. The news uses words like correction, then downturn, then the word everybody dreads. Your balance falls by almost a quarter in 6 weeks. More money lost on paper than you made in overtime all year. Nate, who got safely into cash after listening to some guy on a podcast, tells you at work that he saw it coming, that he's protected now, that you're the one who's exposed. You don't sell. You don't even consciously decide not to sell. You're too busy, too tired, too focused on the actual job in front of you, on getting the kids to practice and the bills paid on time, to open the app and stare at a number turning red. The $8 a day keeps leaving your account and buying the fund while it's cheaper than it's been in years, without you ever making a single brave decision about it. You're not brave. You're just distracted enough to do nothing. And it turns out doing nothing is the rarest skill in the entire game. Is the rarest skill in the entire game. You're 40. 15 years in. The market has come back, the way it usually does, eventually, for people who don't panic in the middle of it. Balance? Roughly $71,000. Contributed across 15 years? About $38,000. For the first time in your life, a single strong year in the market adds more to your account than you could add by hand, working overtime for 12 straight months. Nate has a rough stretch that year. Nothing dramatic, just hours getting cut at the plant for a few months while the company restructures. He doesn't have much of a cushion because the $5, then $8 a day never left his hands long enough to become one. You don't make a thing of it. You don't lend him money and you don't lecture him. You just quietly have something behind you that he quietly doesn't, and neither of you says a word about it at the picnic table that summer. You're 45, 20 years in. Balance? Around $128,000. Contributed? About $47,500. The account has stopped being something you built by hand and started being something you feed. Your oldest is looking at colleges now, and for the first time, you understand this account was never just about you.
You and your wife have the college conversation at the kitchen table. The same table where you once did the math on the transmission repair.
Here's what nobody tells you at 25. Standing in that coffee shop line in your work boots with the truck running outside, the $580,000 was never really the point. The point was proving to yourself, in amounts small enough to never actually hurt, that you're a man who doesn't have to spend everything that passes through his hands. 40 years of that proof, repeated automatically 14,000 times over, is worth more than the number itself, because it's what let you raise the daily amount without ever flinching. And it's what's sitting behind your family right now instead of a stack of receipts nobody kept. Somewhere right now, it's 6:40 in the evening, and some guy just like you is standing in a coffee shop line off the highway, still in his work boots, truck running in the lot. He orders the same thing he always orders and hands over his card without looking at the total. $5. He won't remember this tomorrow. That's the entire point of $5.
He's not doing anything wrong. $5 is nothing. That's exactly why it's easy to lose without noticing, and exactly why it's enough to change an entire life for the very few men who quietly decide to send it somewhere else instead. He's not lazy. He's not bad with money in any way people usually mean that. He's just a hard-working guy who's never once been told that the smallest, most forgettable amount of money in his day is the only one that actually has enough time on its side to matter. You were never going to feel the $5 either way. The only thing that was ever up to you was what it turned into while you weren't paying attention.